All right, we're back down at the gully shop today because I had to turn this flat piece of 1/8 inch that I cut out. It's 1.5 inch wide. Those are 1/2 inch holes. And I need to do what we've done with other pieces you've seen me do before, and I need to dimple those holes. It's just a nice finishing touch on something that's going to turn into a transmission cross member, which is why it's so heavy. It's not sheet metal, that's full 1/8 inch thick steel. But these are a little different. These are just a cone, convex and a concave edge. So you do a 1/2 inch hole, you stick that through, you put it on here and you press it. And these are for when you have to push something that's way heavier than what you could pull with a nut and a bolt. These will do sheet metal just fine, and they look good when they do it. So I bought the whole kit off Amazon for like $290 or something like that. And it comes with 1/2 inch, 3/4, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 2 inch, 2.5. I think it even has a 3 inch in there. I haven't checked, I haven't opened them all up yet, but it's got a bunch of different sizes. So pretty much everything you could need. And I had used these many years ago, like probably 8 or 9 years ago. And I seem to remember there was something going on with them where they weren't ideal for what I was doing at the time. But I figured, I didn't remember what it was, and it wasn't until I started using them on this piece right here that I figured out what that was. You see it does a nice job. It's got a nice, pretty look to it. This is gonna be the inside, but it looks so good. I was contemplating making that the outside, but this is gonna be the outside of the cross member. So what I recalled while I was doing that is that will bend the crap out of it. So I've got these marked inside and outside, so because they're just a little bit asymmetrical. And so we put this up a bit, lock her down, set it in here, and you can see I've got a pretty good stack going. I hate having to readjust this. It's so heavy, it's so complicated. So I just leave it high and stack a bunch of metal underneath it. But we're right there, okay, pretty well lined up. And now, watch how bad this is gonna bend this piece of metal. It's a little ridiculous. So you've got it when you can't really see a gap in there anymore. But it's got this thing bent out of shape. And I think that's what I recall about not wanting to use these before. But now this is a 20-ton vise, or 20-ton press. So, it's pretty heavy duty stuff. I don't know that a 10-ton would do what I needed to do on this next step. And maybe that was the issue I had with it last time. But on this step, you have to flip back over and press it back down. You gotta make sure it's still lined up with the hole, but it centers itself pretty good. And so when I do this, you see that's pretty flat right there. But if I was to let this go right now, it would just bend right back. So you gotta keep going. And you really, see, it's bent the other way now. And when you let it go, it'll come back to flat-ish. There's always going to be some tweaking, some adjustment on that, but when it's done, you get a pretty nice little dimple in there. So let's see if we can see that dimple. There we go. That's pretty good. It's not really any wavier than it was before. This hot rolled steel, it kind of, when you cut it with a cutoff wheel or anything, it kind of wants to flop all over the place. But we're gonna box it up. We're gonna turn it into something. So should be pretty good though. I think for what these are and how much they are, they're a pretty good deal. So we're gonna keep going with that. I'll show you what I'm gonna turn this thing into. I got a bunch of other pieces to do for here. Got a couple of these, a couple of small ones, a couple of little guys here we gotta do. So we'll get those knocked out. So you can see I started assembling some of these pieces. This is the one that goes underneath the transmission, and the polyurethane mounts on top of this. This would be the passenger side of the vehicle, and when it's done, it's going to sit up like this, and then this sits on top of the frame rail, or near the top of the frame rail, depending on the height I set it at, and then that'll be welded onto there, and then on this side, once I get these pieces sorted out, these actually have to go at an angle, like almost like that, because the power brake booster is in the way of going straight across. So I'm not sure if I'm going to go to the front or to the rear, but I have to get these pieces sorted out and then bolt this to the transmission, and then kind of start to lay out where this is all going to land going this way or towards the front, or maybe the front and the rear if it doesn't have enough of support. But I'll be honest with you, it's got plenty of support. Like, this is way stronger than it probably should have been. Maybe I should have used a little lighter gauge steel. Would have made my life a lot easier, and it would have been just as strong with all these gussets and all the stuff I'm doing here. Had to heat this with the torch, and then shape it over this curve that I have here. So it worked out pretty good though. I mean, it's gonna be a good looking piece when it's all done. So I gotta build a piece that's curved in here, and then weld that in. I might actually just take a piece of tubing and cut it, and then fit it in there. So I do have some of that tubing that should be pretty close to that size. So we'll see. All right, here's most of it assembled. So this is the passenger side, and it goes up above the frame rail. This mounts underneath the transmission. As you can see, pretty solid. Like, this thing is a chunk of steel, that's for sure. But also, it looks really good. Turned out really nice. I welded this seam inside and outside, and then added this corner piece here with a nice curve on it. Just kind of matches the opposite radius of the one that's a little higher than that. So this is all, it's all looking really good. I stuck it underneath there briefly. It wasn't quite as tall as what I wanted it to be, so I added a piece here to make it a little taller, and I think it's going to work out really nice. So now I just got to get after this end of it, which is the driver's side, and figure out the angles on that. Maybe do the angle, tack it in place, and then build everything else off that angle. So we'll get after that. All right, I grabbed a light, threw it underneath here. You guys can see kind of what's going on. You can see why I had to make that turn a little bit to clear that booster. And then this goes up over the frame rail. There'll be a mount on this box part, but for now I just got a little flange on there. As you can see, all the weight's on it. I mean, there's no jack stands underneath it or nothing, so that's where she's gonna live. I think it turned out really good. I went ahead and put a couple of bolts through it there, which seems to be a pretty good amount of place. I welded some slugs into the crossmember for, so it wouldn't crush the crossmember, but it's just bolted through. If I end up boxing the frame in that area, I might just leave that open, or maybe just weld some nuts into the frame. So yeah, she's looking good. Turned out really good. I'm pretty happy with it, and you can see the transmission angle sits really good. It's a little high, but the rear end doesn't go up and down, so I'm gonna stick a drive shaft in it. Worst case scenario, I might have to clear this cross member a bit, but that's no big deal. And then, yeah, just run one through there. This cab's getting blasted, but she's pretty dirty. She's been slinging some oil on her, for, keeping her lubricated so it doesn't rust. So, yeah, I think that's gonna look really good. Clears that sensor by about the thickness of a dollar bill. This is what you want. And worst case scenario, I might clearance that a little bit. Just take a little notch out of that cross member, and then put a piece of tubing in there, half a piece of tubing to brace it back up and have it one solid piece. But it was a lot of work. But it's not just your straight bar across, and it's not just a chunk of tubing, and it's not just a it's a little something extra. Nobody will ever see it until she's going across the auction block, which probably never happened. But anybody who sees that cross member is going to be like, dang, I built the heck out of that thing. So it's all an 1/8" plate. It's got flared holes in it. It's probably going to be powder coated. It's going to be real nice.